All right, good morning, everyone. I'm going to go straight into the update. This is going to be a little different today. This is not going to be a full-on snow talk, at least for this particular update, as I want to focus on the alert day that we have and the wind setup that will go to a bit of snow later on. It's been a bit of a mess of a morning, though, right? Messy roads, a lot of crashes due to the hydroplane issues we've had on the roadways due to the rainfall rate that we've had in the area. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm wave meteorologist Brian Good. It is a wave weather alert day, mainly for strong winds, and it's not for the strong winds we were anticipating for the first part of the day. This is all later today that we're talking about for the strongest of the wind gust, and certainly a windy night tonight with a bit of snow. I do know we have, of course, the next system coming our way as we get into Friday night and Saturday. Still some adjustments being made on that, but it still looks to be a very high-impact event for the Friday-Saturday system. And then we have, of course, the snow chance that's still there for the MLK holiday coming up on Monday, along with very cold Arctic air. I will go into much more detail on the second alert day and likely a third alert day that's going to be issued coming up during the 12 o'clock hour today, roughly 12 to 1 o'clock, somewhere around there. Look for the notification. I'll go into a little more of a traditional snow talk at that time. But again, for now, I just want to focus just on the short term to make sure you guys are aware of the setup for this afternoon and tonight, and you can adjust your plans accordingly if you need to, and then we'll regroup with a longer term outlook. Is that fair? Everyone good on that? Oh, wait a minute, got a spammer. Hold on, let me get rid of that. All right, so Renee, thanks for the rain total. I'm going to cover the rain total here in just a second across the map. Good morning, Diana. I hope you're doing well. And there's your rain total there, 1.5 in Carrollton, which looks like it's going to line up with our maps, too, that we've got. All right, this is a live look in downtown Louisville. Poor visibility. Just a crummy day out there with the wall of rain we've had. It's been a little bit off and on when it comes to the intensity of it, but it's been so showery and there's been so much water on the roadways. Got to keep in mind, in a drought status, you get a decent rainfall rate. It doesn't really soak in the ground very well, so it ends up just spilling out on the roadway, and you end up with more of a pooling of water in your favorite spots. Parts of 71, I-65 near Fern Valley, Outer Loop. Same story near Eastern Parkway. You guys know the spots that tend to pool with water. That's a problem we're going to have. Even if the rain does ease in intensity, it's still draining in that area. So that's why the roads will stay a mess for the next several hours until we see the rain ease back several notches and stay that way for longer than 15, 20 minutes at a time. And then I'll have a chance for the drains to get caught up in the roads to somewhat improve. But then again, we'll add on the wind to this entire setup here that we're facing today. But so far, it's just been mainly rain. Nothing severe going on. Haven't even seen lightning that's been taking place. It's just rain that we're talking about. And the back edge of that is showing up around portions of, say, Crawford County. So if this holds, I would say in the next 2.5 hours, we should actually get the steady rain to ease back a bit to more of a drizzle scenario. And then another wave will likely hit in a little more off and on fashion as we get into later on this afternoon and tonight. Here are the rain totals. This is since, it says 24 hours. This is generally since midnight in Carrollton. We've got the gauge there in Carroll County, Kentucky, Mills at 1.3. Louisville, over an inch of rain has fallen. 1.5 at Shepherdsville. Again, this is not lining up very close to the data. A little bit on the lower end, I would say, for those of you into Indiana so far. I'm not seeing the higher numbers there yet. I think you'll catch up a little bit later on. But overall, near the Ohio River and south, it's over an inch of rain that we're talking about. Look how large this system is, guys. It's stretched all the way from Canada all the way into the panhandle of Florida, producing snow, the wind, and, of course, the severe weather. I'm sure you guys turned the TV on this morning and we're hearing about Panama City, where Panama City Beach got hit right in the middle of their downtown area. This morning now we've got 4 tornado warnings out for southern Georgia and the panhandle of Florida. It looks like Tallahassee is now under a severe thunderstorm warning with a possible tornado now heading in that direction. It is going to be a rough day. I've been watching to see if the feed was going to come up in Tallahassee. I don't see it. We do have a sister station there. I'm sure they're swamped, obviously, with the coverage. But this is going to be a big ordeal when it comes to wind damage and tornadoes today for near Atlanta, all the way down into central Florida, Myrtle Beach, Wilmington, North Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina. If you have friends or family there, that is a bad spot to be today. It's going to keep going. This is not going to weaken. This will actually become much more widespread on the warning level for that area. For us, we are right in the middle of the path of the center of the storm. So overall, we are getting the heavier rain side of this, but we're not getting the severe weather and we're not getting the heavy snow. So we're right, I wouldn't say Goldilocks area, because we're still under an alert day because the wind is still going to be strong for our region. Wind advisory continues. Now, I'm waiting to see if there's any more adjustments that may come from that. I don't think there will be. It's generally an afternoon and evening or even overnight set up for most of the wind advisory we have in wave country. And not everyone's included. I know Jennings and Jackson, not in that, but it still will be a very strong wind scenario. So far, we have not seen the gust kick into that level. Most of them have been off to the east, a few gusts developing to the west. We're like, well, where's the wind? Well, that is going to change this afternoon when we get the low pressure to deepen a little more as it gets into areas of Indiana. Then we'll get some breaks in the rain. Now, while that helps on road conditions, on improving the radar and getting the heavier rain to back off a bit, that also will allow the air to take the strong wind, because right now the wind over our head is basically hurricane force winds flying over us. You don't know it, though, when you look outside, because it's relatively calm, right? In many spots, it's not windy at all. But once we get rid of this steady rain that we have now, the atmosphere has a chance to then allow for some of that wind to make it down below the tree line. And that's where things get a little more complex for this afternoon. Gusts within wave country, got 25 in Lexington, 22 in Pulaski County, 21 miles per hour as you head toward, say, Evansville, Indiana. All right, so here is how the wind gust. This is just one model's idea, but I think it's a very fair assessment of how things will ramp up. We get to 1 o'clock, we'll start to see a few more gusts in the 25 to 30 mile per hour range, but keep an eye on the coloring. So you get a little more of that magenta showing up south and west here of Louisville. I think once we get to about the 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. newscast this afternoon, we're going to start to see the wind reports jump upward. And across central Kentucky, we should easily get to 40 miles per hour, if not higher. Look at even Marion County coming in at 48 miles per hour for a wind gust in Lebanon. Again, don't hold these numbers to the exact location. Just get the general idea. The wind ramps up this afternoon. And notice the gusts are indeed higher over Kentucky than you will see over Indiana. Louisville will be included, though, in some of those higher wind gusts, as we typically are, just because of how we're set up in terrain. And, of course, our sensor is at Ollie International, a very wide open area. So it's easy to see some of those wind gusts reach that level. But here's the thing. It will stay windy even beyond sunset into this evening. It's going to be a windy night tonight and turning colder by the hour as well. So strong wind gusts will continue tonight, 40 to 50 miles per hour at times. Even as I advance to 2:30 in the morning, we're still dealing with strong wind gusts that will at times jump over 40 miles per hour. It's not going to be 40 to 50 the entire window that I'm describing to you guys, but it should be over 35 majority of that window. So very, very windy. Hang on tight. We've already picked up a good solid inch and a half of rainfall. So now we've got to keep an eye on some of the trees that or maybe haven't done very well in the drought situation, may have died. later into the fall season and early winter season here, if you have a tree like that nearby, the root system is going to become a little more on the loose side. So you start to get into some of these stronger wind gusts. Just keep an eye on that tree. If you normally park next to something like that, just don't. Simply put. Could there be some power outages tonight? Yes, absolutely there could be. If you're in a neighborhood that tends to always have the lights flicker or go out because you have more of an above ground grid, this is a setup that will likely feature an issue for you tonight. So just make sure you know where the flashlights are, backup areas for your phone, make sure everything's charged up just in case the power were to go out, so you don't have a rude awakening in the middle of the night there or late tomorrow morning. Once we get into about sunrise tomorrow, the wind will finally start to ease back, although I am seeing a signal the wind is probably going to ramp back up again Wednesday night into Thursday morning. And that has nothing to do with the Friday system that's coming our way. It's a baby system in between the two. It's not enough for an alert day, but I do think the wind's going to get back up close to 40 miles per hour for Thursday morning. Very windy the next few days. All right, so here's the rainfall side of this, and this is the rain and temperature. So I covered the wind. I think everyone's clear now. Type 1 if you're clear. Type 1 if you're clear on the wind part of it, and you understand the gust potential. Again, mainly this afternoon, overnight, 40 to 50 is the range we're looking at. Won't be that range all the time, but we're going to see those numbers on the map tonight. All right, make sure you guys are good on that. That's why we have the alert day, not for tornadoes, not for even flooding that's going to happen, or even for snow. It's mainly for the idea of the wind. But speaking of that, on the snow side, how is that going to evolve? Well, with that strong wind this afternoon and tonight, that is going to allow for a temperature drop. We should hit our high temperature, I would say, roughly at about 1:30, 2 o'clock today. We'll hit our high, and then we're going to reverse. Okay, I see a lot of ones. Thank you, guys. Appreciate that. That helps me, so we're on the same page here. Once we see the temperature reverse, it will be slow. It's not going to be a flash-free scenario, all right? Make sure I'm clear on that. But it will get cold enough to where we're going to see a lot of the green you see here on this Futurecast suddenly show a little bit of the pink that is mixing in, and then it just flips all the way over and goes to snow. I think you're seeing a pink there listed at about 1:30 morning. That should be all snow. Once we get to roughly 36 degrees, wherever you're at, you will likely see snow falling outside. Now, this is not going to be a heavy snow setup, but here's the complex problem with this. Remember the wind part. It is going to be quite windy. So you're taking areas of light snow and maybe briefly moderate that try to develop tonight, and you're going to be moving them in 40-mile-per-hour winds. That is going to make it look like there is a blizzard going on outside. We're not calling for a blizzard, but it may look like that out your window. And certainly when you're driving on the roads, you know how the snow falls in front of your headlights, and especially if it's blowing crazy, it makes it really hard to see the lines on the road, right? So travel can be impacted tonight from the snow, but not in a traditional way of icy roads that we're talking about. I'm talking about just not being able to see very well, just because it will be coming down hard enough to where when the wind grabs it and moves those flakes around, it's going to be a bit of a challenge. Now, when it comes to accumulations, it can happen, but it's going to be in spots that are a bit more sheltered from the wind and a little colder than other locations, because the wind really keeps the snowflake in motion for so long, it doesn't have a chance to even get on the ground, right? So it's hard for it to accumulate with a windy scenario. Secondly, the ground's waterlogged. A wet ground that had temperatures in the 40s to 50s during the daytime period allows for snowflakes to melt in the first 10 seconds of touching the ground. And if it's not snowing hard enough to where another one can latch onto it and then accumulate and build up, then it's a constant melting that happens. So it's harder to accumulate on a wet ground scenario without a big drop in temperature happening. So there are some challenges to get at accumulating snow tonight. And that's good or bad, depending if you're a snow lover or not. But in some areas, I do think it will happen. So we've got to be aware of that. Right now, what is standing out to me are a few spots in central Kentucky. I would say roughly around E-Town, LaRue County, over to Marion, and then also southern Indiana are starting to stand out as two zones that have the best type of setup in terrain and the way the configuration is on the radar for overnight, that you may get about a half inch or so of a snowfall. I don't see anything going over 1 inch. It should be under that. But a quarter to half inch, certainly possible. And yes, that can make it slick if you're getting closer to 32 during the overnight. In Louisville and in the metro, a bit more of a challenge to get us to that level. By the time it gets close to being able to support an accumulating type setup, it'll start to end. So this is where we will likely see it max out roughly around the, it'll start to change the snow, FYI, roughly about 7 to 9 p.m. tonight, depending on where you're at. It'll continue through midnight, continue about 2 or 3 a.m., and then after about 3 a.m., we should be done. How that impacts the morning commute tomorrow is going to be a good question. I think it's not going to be a widespread concern, but there may be a few slick spots to where there could be a couple of school delays. I wouldn't be surprised to see that. I don't see any cancellations because we're not going to stay frozen all day, and we're not expecting any additional snow throughout the day on Wednesday. But there could be some slick spots in the morning, so schools may have a little bit of a challenge there. These light snow events under an inch with temperatures right at the freezing mark, a little tough. I've seen it go both ways on that idea of causing issues with schools and travel, and in some areas, roads are just fine. In our 30 counties, it's hard to say one blanket statement for that. You guys know how this goes. It's not always the case. So just make sure you watch our newscast tonight, starting at 11 o'clock tonight, and sunrise tomorrow morning for an update on how that will play out. It's going to stay cold tomorrow. Again, windy tomorrow night into Thursday. Quick look at the 10-day. There's the second alert day that will kick in. Remember the wind, though, I mentioned Thursday morning, but otherwise quiet. We get into the alert day on Friday. It's another strong low pressure with wind, rain. Southern Indiana, I'm watching you guys. You may have a better potential to get perhaps into an advisory level type snow setup as we head into your Saturday morning. And then everyone's been talking about the snow for Monday, at least snow lovers have, as it's a decent one, but I have a lot of questions on the track on that one. But no doubt, look at the cold air. Barely above 10 for high, and if we get snow on the ground, we're going below zero. If we get snow on the ground, we're going below zero. Right now, we don't know how much in the way of snow we're going to get, if at all, obviously. So until we have a little more confidence on that question, we're going to keep us in the warm, mild single digits. But keep in mind, if we get snow on the ground, these numbers go lower. The wind chills will get dangerously cold. So that will be a whole other issue that we got to hash out. But we've got to get through today's system and the one on Friday before we can fine tune that. Again, I'll go into much more detail in the second part of the update today on the blog here on the app. Will be in the 12 o'clock hour with the normal snow talk. All right, so there you go. I really just want to touch base on today's setup because I don't want to confuse you guys with covering all of that you see there for you. That's just a lot. It's a lot for us, all right? I don't want to overwhelm you all too much on that. I want to try to break it up a little bit so that everyone doesn't get everything confused about the snow even tonight with the one on Monday and all that kind of setup, right? No, as far as ice, and good question. Someone asked about that. Thanks for answering. No, this is not really an icing type of scenario because even in Louisville, I don't know if we're even going to get to 32, but you can still get accumulating snow at 33, 34 just on grassy areas. The roads are fine. You can still get an accumulation at that point. You got to get to about 36 though to get to snow falling. Once you get below that, and of course we're seeing this happen in the darkness of night tonight. That is also a prime setup to get an accumulating snow on grassy areas on rooftops, the deck, the car, versus a daytime setup like this with these kind of numbers and temperature. It would be much more of a challenge. But being tonight, a little bit better opportunity. I don't know if we'll have enough for an advisory that will come out tonight. I don't see that yet. But in some areas in central Kentucky and Indiana, it's getting a little close there. It's not our call. It's a Weather Service call, but we're going to keep the alert day up for mainly the wind. And if we see a signal that there will be a better opportunity to get a half inch here and there, and we can pinpoint those spots with a little more confidence, then we'll add that onto the alert day list of items we need to be aware of. Okay. Tim, YouTube weather pros are all showing a foot of snow next week. Yeah, well, look, only thing I can tell you about next week, Tim, is that I'm confident it'll be snow if anything falls. It's not a rain or snow setup. So, hey, that's a plus for us around here for snow lovers. We can't even get past that line of rain and snow. This is going to be snow or not. Hopefully not the not for snow lovers. But, I mean, I don't want the snow with way below zero wind chills. That's not fun because we can't enjoy it then. We got to stay inside. So that's my concern. Brandon, would Saturday be an alert day because the icy temperatures? Yes, that is possible. Something we're looking at. Again, I think there is some potential, especially Indiana may get to advisory level on snow. And if that's the case, yes, we're going to end up with an alert day extension for Friday into Saturday morning as a result of that. Because once we get below freezing Friday night, early Saturday, we're not going to get above it for several days. We're going to get into the deep freeze. This is the core here of what looks to be the core of winter is going to be happening here in the next 7 to 14 days on the 10-day here. So for those that are wondering where winter is, it's coming. It's coming. But we got a couple of very strong wind systems here passing through that are going to be a challenge for us. And I want you guys just to be careful. All right, I'm going to end it there for now. Sorry to be so brief. I got to get ready for the midday show because obviously we got a lot to cover there for midday today. I'll be on again at noon. But just as a reminder, I'll have another blog update just after the noon show. And we'll then hash out much more on the Friday, Saturday system, and, of course, the setup into early next week. Hey, guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Be safe out there traveling. And I'll see you guys here in just a few more hours. Take care.